using a trigonometric ratio to find an angle measure in a right triangle. So we need to find x, round your answer to the nearest tenth of a degree. So in the last few trigonometric videos, we were given an angle and asked to find a side length. Now we're being asked to find the angle. So we're still going to use one of these three trigonometric functions, just like we did before. So we have sine, cosine, or tangent. And here are the ratios that go along with each one. And then my little diagram. And this is the same one I've used for all the videos. So again, if you're not writing notes, you should be writing notes. We definitely should have this written down by now. And this saying at the top here is just a way to help you remember. So you have so, ka, toa. Just helps you remember the order of your trigonometric functions. So S goes for sine, O and H for opposite and hypotenuse, T for cosine, A for adjacent, H for hypotenuse, T for tangent, O for opposite, A for adjacent. So it just helps you remember really quickly without writing down the entire trigonometric functions, what they stand for. So the only difference for this one is that we're not given the angle. So what we're going to do is we're going to have two numbers, which they gave us two numbers in that first one. I'm just scrolling down here. So we're going to put it in a trigonometric function, whichever one works for the two sides we're given. And then we're going to do this inverse function, or it's called arc. So this is arc cosine. And it's on our calculator. So if I click on the calculator, you can see we have cosine, we have arc cosine, tangent and arc tangent, sine and arc tangent. Or you can think of it like inverse. It's kind of like we're going backwards. We don't have the angle, so we have to go backwards to find the angle. I know that kind of sounds funny, but that's exactly what we're going to do on this one. So we're going to have our ratio, just like we normally do. We're going to get a decimal, and then we're going to hit the arc sign for that one. So let's go ahead and try this out so I can actually show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so for this one, what we have to do first, we have to decide which function are we using. So we're looking at x here. So I'm going to label my triangle real quick. So here's my opposite. Get my colors out here. Here's my hypotenuse. That's always across from the 90. Whoop. And adjacent is, you can think of it, if you're labeling it in the same way I am, it's the side that's left over, or it's the side that connects the 90 and the angle that you're looking at. All right, so here are my three. So I have adjacent and hypotenuse. That tells me if I come over here, I have to use cosine. So I need to kind of label them before I can decide what I'm using. So I'm going to do cosine of x equals, and I'm going to go adjacent over hypotenuse because that's my ratio. So now let's go ahead and open the calculator here. Boop. I'm going to move this down here. Calculator. All right. Well, we don't need this color wheel open either. So I'm going to go 14 divided by 23. And here's my decimal for the cosine of x. So now, as long as it's highlighted, if I hit arc cosine, it will automatically put it in parentheses for me. If that wasn't highlighted, it wouldn't have worked correctly. So because it was already highlighted, I can do that, and then I can hit equals. So now I know that my angle is 52.50475, but they only want us to round to a tenth. So we look at the number right past the tenth. It's 0, so that's 4 smaller. I'm going to leave it at 52.5. So once you get the decimal, you want to take the arc of whichever one you're using, whichever trigonometric function you're using. All right, let's check that. And we're good to go. Next, clear. Okay, so move these over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and start labeling what we have here. So we're looking at angle x. Oh, I hit my pen tool. So we have opposite. We have hypotenuse, and that's always across from the 90, so that should hopefully be the easiest one to label there. And then again, adjacent is either the one that's left over or the one connecting the angle and the right angle. So the angle that we're focusing on and the right angle. Okay, so I have hypotenuse and opposite. The reason I keep labeling these is because I need to know which function I'm using. Well, opposite and hypotenuse tells me I'm using sine. So sine of x equals opposite over hypotenuse. So I have 11 over 15. So now it's time to grab the calculator. So I have 11 divided by 15 equals, so here's my decimal, Now I want to know what is x, so I have to do that arc sign. If you're on your phone, whoops, don't want to hit that twice. So I'm going to hit equals real quick. And then make sure you're rounding it to the 10th. Because that's what there's. So this is a 10th, but I have to look at that number right past. If it's 5 or bigger, then the 10th is going to round up just to the next one. So it's going to go 47.2. Because what we're doing is we're deciding, is it closer to 47.1 or 47.2? That's what rounding is all about. What is it closer to? I did want to show you one thing really quick. So if I have this calculator open and I do 11 divided by 15 equals, I get the same decimal that I got. And this is the calculator I think that's pretty common on most phones. Well, I don't see my arc sign, I only see sign. I have to hit the second button in order to see that. And now I can hit it and it'll tell me the same answer. So you have to toggle back and forth and it'll kind of change up some of your functions here. But I just wanted to make sure I brought that up because if you're not using this calculator, not all of them just have sine, cosine, tangent, and the arc signs up there too. All right, so let's go ahead and hit check. And we're good. Next, clear. Okay, so let's do the same thing on this next one. So we're looking at angle x, so we have opposite. We have hypotenuse. So it looks like we're going to use sine again because even though I'm labeling adjacent, there's nothing actually here. So we're not going to use adjacent. So we're going to use opposite and hypotenuse again. So we're going to use sine of x. I don't know why those connected when I wrote that. So sine of x equals opposite over hypotenuse. Let's go ahead and go to our calculator. We have 14 divided by 23 equals, and then I'm going to hit sine, but make sure it's arc sine, and then equals. So we're rounding to a 10th, so we have 37.4. The next number is a 9, so that means that this number is actually closer to 37.5 than it is 37.4. So we want to do 37.5. Check. All right, we finished another one. Yay.